Hey y'all, what is up everybody? What is up YouTube? Sparky Marky here, and I'm back to do a movie review, another one in the sixth installment of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And this is the sixth installment, which is known as Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, or as I like to call it, A Nightmare on Elm Street 6, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. So yeah, but it's just called Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. I don't care. I just like it both, or just take it one of the same. So, among other things, it would be 2 years later, in 1991, we would get another one. And, of course, it would star Lisa Zane and Yeppe Koto, if you know him from Alien, The Running Man, and other projects he had done, including Across from the 10th Street Bridge, which is a blaxploitation film. And also, we got Meyer, who we would see him in Clueless, and he would be appearing in TV shows and other projects. And Toby Saxon, whom I believe, if I'm not mistaken, would be the son of John Saxon, if I'm not mistaken. No, I don't think so. I don't think he's not related to John Saxon, who was the cop in the first two. The first and the third installment of Nightmare on Elm Street, so no, my bad. And it would be directed by a female director by the name of Rachel Tallaye, and this was her directorial debut as a female director. And the screenplay was written by Michael DeLuca, or aka Mike DeLuca. Great guy. And he was the executive producer on these projects. Pause them very carefully. Whoa, pause it even more. Yep, this is the dude that produced these awesome projects. And he was the writer for The Lawnmower Man, which was a short film. That was 1987. It would be 5 years later we get the theatrical version and a director's cut version. And he was the writer for Freddy's Dead. In the Mouth of Madness. Wait a minute. It was released in Italy in 1994, December 10th. Released on February 3rd, 1995, 30 years ago. But I'm going to review that movie another time. And also the Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd. Which indeed, I'd rather stick with Dredd. Judge Dredd had many problems. And he was production executive on the fifth Nightmare on Elm Street and then 2003's Old School, and pause that very carefully of the thanks. Alrighty, so back to this installment. Alright. So it came out on September the 13th, 1991. I was 5 months old when this movie came out, and it was on a budget of about maybe $9, maybe $11 million. Made $34.9 million, and yes, it surpassed the predecessors before it. So yeah, wow, it surpassed the previous predecessor, and it was panned by critics upon its release at the time. So yeah. So anyways, and it's an origin story. And we see the villain, how he became the villain, and we see him when he was a kid, from childhood, and then next thing you know, growing up and being called son of 100 maniacs, which indeed was very insulting. Alex Cooper is in this film. He doesn't do a soundtrack, unfortunately. Maybe he does, I'm not so sure. And he plays Edward Underwood, who happens to be the foster dad or stepdad of Fred Krueger. And he had some amazing casts, including Robert Shea plays the bank teller in this movie. And then you have Lisa Zane as Maggie Burroughs, aka Catherine Krueger. So yeah, and we see the little girl version of her. And then we have Tom Arnold and Roseanne Barr. They're credited as Mr. Tom Arnold and then Mrs. Tom Arnold as they're credited. They play Childless Man and Childless Woman. Wow. And yeah, they, of course, they're facing a lot of things. And of course, Johnny Depp makes a cameo appearance, as the teen on television, credited as Orphan Needle Mantra. Wow. And plus, there's some special things in this film, like the Power Glove, which is indeed a very one of those Nintendo products around at the time. And it's up to, and of course we have our heroine Maggie Burroughs, aka Catherine Kruger, finding her origin story along with her villainous father Fred Krueger. And yeah, we're going to be seeing some craziness around. And there's also, yeah, a little nod or homage to The Wizard of Oz. To those who have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Those who haven't, you young BUCKSs, go get your paws on that set, like now. So yeah. And plus, okay, we got Goo Goo Dolls, Chop Rocks, Junk Monkeys, Iggy Pop. So yeah, this is why I was born. Huh. I gotta get that. So yeah, you got good soundtracks, and the score was done by Brian May, not the guitarist of the band named Queen. No, no, no. And although the one song is not included in the soundtrack by Iron Butterfly, In Gata de Vida. I wouldn't be surprised it wouldn't be short for In the Garden of Eden, but it is In the Gata Vida. Yeah, and it's a 1968 song, which indeed is a good one. Check that out. But it's not included in the soundtrack, unfortunately, because I don't think there were some rights issues or so. Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at the disc and see the features. Like now. So yeah, do this. Okay, here we are. The 6th installment. Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. AKA Nightmare on Elm Street. Boy, gotta be careful with this. There we go. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Careful there, folks. Careful. This is a good set. Don't ruin it. Time to check out the features. Like now. Anybody recognize the uppercase or the other regular DVD artwork of the franchise? Remembers this? Anybody who's remembered? And you can play the film either in 2D or 3D. We have the 3D glasses. Scene selection, we have about... approximately 23 chapters. We have the languages, subtitles, and here are the special features: 86D, Hellraiser, Rachel's Dream, 3D Dimension. All 4 features. So let's start with this, 86D. So for 86D, it's about a 1 minute and 46 second, 1 minute and 46 second length feature with Robert Shea. And it's an interview with Robert Shea talking about the initial idea for Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, that they think that they took some extent and became slightly breathed with a lot of ideas, much as always try to say that didn't want to make a film that didn't really satisfy the audience, and he didn't purposely do that for some of these later films in the series, and they were stretching perhaps a little more than they ought to have create a sequel, because they really wanted to have this sequel and don't feel embarrassed or guilty nor any of that, or disloyal to the fans of the franchise of Nightmare for any films that they have made over the years, and tried as hard as that they could deliver a good product. And he thinks that could just do so much with the idea, and that it was that sometimes, as said after the initial idea, which its crudeness and was so effective that it was it became increasingly difficult to embellish on with the new ideas and opinions on Freddy's death, which was obtainiously the last one in the series, last one in the formal series, and meant and he means that the most effective thing that they could come up with was, anyone knows about the 3D gimmick, and at the end it was kind of worked, and Mr. Shea was happy with the film and thought that Rachel Taglier did a fantastic job as a director on this installment, and was one of the least successful of the series, and sort of singled us that we should let Freddy go for a while. And fortunately, they were in a position cooperatively to go and move on and do other things. So yeah, it was a very good extensive 1 minute with Mr. Shea to talk about how it went, and then they had to let go for a while. So yeah, on to the next feature. Alrighty, so the second feature is called Hellraiser. Why is it that? And it's a 40-second interview with author, novelist, writer, and filmmaker Clive Barker of Hellraiser, and he talks about that it's very hard when you go into number 6 in a franchise, still speaking something any director wasn't going to be directing a number 6, but somebody had to get up and go do it there every day, direct actors in countries like England, and had to get them into the makeup chair, special special effects guys that had to do their things. And it's hard when you've been going for 6 movies, and in England he guessed it is the only common factor really of these projects, of these films, and only figure that appears as it were in all of them. And he thinks it's very hard to keep the track of things and the energy, to keep the initial energy very up and very motivating everybody around the production. So yeah, it's a very good extensive 40 seconds with Mr. Barker. So yeah, tell me what you guys think of that, but the features will be linked in the description down below. On to the next feature. Alrighty, so the next special feature is Rachel's Dream interview with actor Robert Englund and director and writer and producer or assistant accountant Rachel Taglier. Alright, so with Robert Englund, for starters, in the interview, he says that he goes back to the days of the Roger Corman days with Miss Taglier, and he recalls it was on the set of Nightmare 1 and she was the production accountant at the time, and have worked with Rachel and Rachel's husband Rupert over the years in various other projects. And well, Rachel's like always sort of like she knew the director and writer named John Waters and things that one of these people really things was going on, was going to go somewhere. Mr. England thinks that Bob Shea was a different theories, worked on different theories over the years. Mr. Shea from New Line, and thinks that to be proud of a little embarrassed of everything, sort of like when his bastard cousin, this Freddy Krueger thing that he created, and very chuckled and laughed by Mr. England. And the next one is with Rachel Tailier, talking about that her directing the film and had decided to do something and felt like she really wanted to had worked enough with directors in the franchise, producing long enough, and had the passion for the project, and had just come off a film called Book of Love, which Bob Shea directed, and thought, well, now's the time that he knows that it's hard time for her to do the directing gig for a first time female director range, but you can't what do you put the word, thoughts on, well, they have got everything with loaded ammunition ready to shoot the film, and got to let her do, and she never directed a film until Nightmare 6, and the outline for the sixth installment was keeping in mind that they were going to eliminate Freddy, blow him up, or kill off the villain, and that wanted to create more story than there was originally, that had been there for Nightmare and before Nightmare 5, and things that they had sort of collapsed into the convolution. So she wanted to make more of a story, keeping the Bible of what was worked on the Nightmare series, and it was conscious in creating Nightmare 6, and she wanted to make slightly more fun pieces than Nightmare 5 had felt. And Nightmare 5 was very serious and sort of its gothic horror elements, and that the director Stephen Hopkins is very much a production designer, and he was very into the gothic elements, and she wanted to create, and the people were creating this actually the time when the era of the Twin Peaks series had come on, and to come up with idea and come out with the writer Mike DeLuca got involved in the writing process of the script, and they were both very in love with the show Twin Peaks, and had just come off the John Waters films, and particularly working closely with Mr. Waters on Cry Baby, which was a film full of cameos, and they came up with a idea of that they could get a lot of cameos in the film, the same technique that worked on Patty Hearst and Iggy Pop, and that there was opportunity here to create some really interesting David Lynchian characters, and a lot of weirder ideas came off of a combination of Carnival of Souls, watching the film, and the Twin Peaks time. So yeah, sort of more and more with it, and slightly of the Kiter side. That was the Kiter side to her Nightmare was. So yeah, very extensive interview of this first time director. So yeah, folks, very extensive in detail indeed. So what do you guys think? Crazy, right? Alrighty, on to the next one. Alrighty, so the fourth feature in this installment is called 3D Demise, an interview with writer-director Rachel Taglier and special effects artist John Carl Beekler, which is about 2 minutes and 24 seconds in length. Talking about Miss Taglier talks about the end of obliterating Freddy. At the end of Freddy is really a problem and meant the questions to the fans saying killing off a villain, but the fact made they made her shoot it in 3D, and because it was really cool killing Freddy off of it in 3D, fantastic, and really made a really fantastic effect sequence, but was completely limited to the shoot. And Mr. Beekler said that Rachel loved to use what she called the bungee camera, that essentially a huge 3D camera hanging off a crane, smacked down with a bungee cord, and that she could move it fluidly throughout the sets, which was a very cool, except that the usual wires, the gags that was used to affect these things that couldn't be employed, so that to create, that had everything through were self-contained units, and so essentially that's made more hard to work on. And Ms. Taglier talks about that in the lab, in the basement, suddenly you're working inside the basement with a baseball bat that you couldn't put towards the camera because it becomes all about how to make it and work on 3D, how to make 3D work, not how make a killing off of Freddy. Interesting idea. Making interesting ideas. And Mr. Beekler talks about that there were very disturbing ideas, that a deaf kid gets his ear sliced off, and that they couldn't cheat, and meant that Mr. Beekler had to have made a head and sliced off an ear off the character, and that had to reattach for the part for the second take. So it got really moved away from the point where they were creating special effects, a special effect, and were doing a documentary, and you're actually building things to these things. And Miss Talia talks about it wasn't a couple of weeks before principal photography began, and that they were finished the film, and that they knew that the 3D was going to work, and it was terrifying, and absolutely terrifying. And they looked at stuff where they came off with worst headaches, and where stuff wasn't quite aligned or eligible. And now most people are seeing the video not in 3D, and they're like, what is this? God, is this lame? And there are these lame visual effects, when happy with the demise of Freddy was the whole telling of Freddy's backstory and going into Freddy's head. Things like that. She thought that's really good idea, and she's really think of interesting ideas, and she actually think killing Freddy was killing Freddy off with his own glove. Wow, that would be a good idea. That's a great idea. And personally, she should, of course, be here saying it's brilliant. It's a brilliant idea. It's brilliant. So yeah, it was an intriguing interview with Rachel Tellier and John Carl Beekler. So all these 4 features will be in the description box down below. And tell me what you guys think of that. Very bizarre, huh? So yeah, now let's look at the film. But I'm just gonna take pictures of some scenes that are like good quality with the skin tone and everything, and seeing Freddy Krueger, and seeing how the 4K picture quality looks, and tell you my opinion on the audio, and is it worth getting it? But you know it is. And as well as the flashback sequences, and then there's the whole other things. So yeah, enough chit chat. Let's play it and give you my final thoughts. Like now. Alrighty, folks. So yeah, at first, some people think that Freddy had a child. Was it a son or a daughter? Huh. Turns out it's the daughter, not a son. And as well as the defeating of the villain, very cool. And among other things, it's a fun horror comedy movie, but comedy in a satire kind of way. At least Rachel Tellier did a fantastic job with this, with the limitations that she had and what was given to her. So yeah, all in all, wall to wall, a cool movie, or a great one. So yeah, what do you think of the picture quality and the volume? I'm gonna give it like a 9 out of 10. Really, the volume was great and everything. So yeah, it was amazing. Amazing transfers, amazing picture quality, and everything. Superb. So yeah. Also, if you like content like this or any other content on this channel, please click the bell and the subscribe button to be notified of all new uploads. Like the videos, always appreciate thumbs ups. Have any opinion related to the contents? Comments down below. And please click the bell to be notified, whether I'm uploading the YouTube post or YouTube videos that are going to be popping up soon with a certain time. So yeah, keep an eye on that, folks, including on my YouTube posts. You'll never know what's going to pop up. Just keep an eye on it daily and weekly. So yeah, and before signing off, let's give a shout out to that thing of ours, to the physical media collectors, the watch collectors, toy collectors, autograph collectors, convention goers, travelers, bloggers. Heck, shouts to you all. And especially let's give a shout out to my subscribers. You know who you all are. Shouts to you all, cats and dogs. Shouts to you all. So, I'm going to be doing on my final 4K review for the Nightmare series. And it'll be done. So keep an eye on it, folks. So, y'all, this is Marky Mark signing off. Y'all take care. God bless you. Enjoy Wednesday, y'all, and later.